you. Thank you for being here. Good to see everyone out tonight. And thank you to Dean Diaz, and just a huge thanks to all the departments here at West Virginia University that have supported this. It's pretty amazing sort of cross-departmental support for this, which really just shows how many people here are doing really important work dealing with these issues. So I'm really excited to be here tonight and get to showcase this work with Raymond. And seeing the photography up in the atrium is amazing. And I also want to give a special thanks to Sally Deskins, wherever she is, who did an incredible job pulling this all together. So thank you, Sally. So I first became involved in doing work around this issue of mass incarceration when I was an undergraduate in college. I took a class, a history class, on the history of the US prison system. And it was in that class that I first saw charts like this, showing the exponential increase in the number of people in prison in the United States today. If you look between around 1974, we had about 200,000 people in prison in this country, until this exploded to the over 2 million people we have incarcerated today. I mean, and just looking at this graph is striking. I mean, what happened? And if you look at this, the United States incarcerates more people than any other country in the world. We have we have less than 5% of the world's population, yet we have almost 25% of the world's prisoners. And that when we say mass incarceration, this is specifically the mass incarceration of poor people and people of color. The statistics on this are staggering, that 1 in 3 black men will serve time likely to be incarcerated during their lifetime. And I think in this last summer, in July 2016, right after the police shootings of Philando Castile and Alton Sterling, President Obama gave this press release at the time that I think shows how, a little bit behind the scenes of how those charts came to be. He said, according to various studies, not just one, but a wide range of studies that have been carried out over a number of years, African Americans are 30% more likely than whites to be pulled over. After being pulled over, African Americans and Hispanics are 3 times more likely to be searched. Last year, 2015, African Americans were shot by police at more than twice the rate of whites. African Americans are arrested at twice the rate of whites. African American defendants are 75% more likely to be charged with offenses carrying mandatory minimums. They receive sentences that are almost 10% longer than comparable whites arrested for the same crime. So, if you add all that up, the African American and Hispanic population, who make up only 30% of the general population, make up more than half of the incarcerated population. And so, as a college student, I was sort of grappling with first learning about this. Because of my race and my background, I didn't have firsthand experience with the criminal justice system. And so I was trying to figure out as a young person sort of what my role in this work could be, which to me is one of the most pressing human rights crises of our time and our nation. And so this inquiry led me close to here, to Central Appalachia, to Eastern Kentucky. And when I was a junior in college, I did an internship at Apple Shop. Has anyone heard of Apple Shop? Awesome. It's in Southeast Kentucky, and it's an amazing media arts education center that was founded in the 1960s during the War on Poverty, as a way to sort of counter the really negative images of Appalachia that were coming out in the national media, and to have people from the region telling their own stories and documenting their own lives. And one of the things that brought me to Apple Shop was doing really interesting, important work against the prison system in the region. Since the 1990s, Central Appalachia has become one of the most concentrated areas of rural prison growth. And by the time I got to Appalshop in 2008, Appalshop now is surrounded by new prisons. If you look at this map, the gray county is Letcher County, the home of Appalshop. And there are now 16 prisons on this map. Over 3/4 of them have been built since 1990, in the last quarter century. Unfortunately, this map doesn't show all of West Virginia, but it's a very similar story where there have been many new federal prisons in West Virginia as well. And this is very timely because there's actually a proposal right now for potentially to build yet another federal prison in Letcher County, Kentucky, the home of Appalshop, which I will return to in a bit. But so this is Wallens Ridge Prison, which is a super maximum state prison in Southwest Virginia. If you look on the map, it's right here in this county, and this is where I was. And so Appalshop has a community radio station, WMMT, and sort of in response to this really fast new prison growth, my friend Amelia had a late night music show, and she started getting a lot of letters from the men incarcerated close by that listened to the show every Monday night. And one night, she received a call from a woman in Washington, D.C. who said, my brother is incarcerated at Red Onion State Prison, and I know he listens to your music show every night. Would it be all right if I just go on air and say hello to him directly? And so Amelia said, sure, go ahead, and played a short message from this sister. And that was the first call of what became the Calls from Home radio show, which has been now a weekly show for over a decade that sends phone messages from family members to their loved ones incarcerated in one of these 7 prisons that the station reaches. And so I just wanted to play you a little clip of what that radio show sounds like. And as you listen, I'm going to show you some of the mail that we've received over the years from the listeners in prison. Oops, sorry.
Hi, welcome to Calls from Home. How are you tonight?
Good, and you?
Doing well. Would you like to leave a shout out?
Yes, thank you.
All right, great. I'm going to hit record and we'll get you on the radio tonight. And you can go right ahead.
Thank you. This shout out is coming from Richmond, Virginia, to my sons, Alonzo Logan and Dwayne and Louisa Charity. I miss you guys, and I love you so much. I'm just waiting for the day when we can see each other again, and hopefully it will be soon.
Hey, this message is for Jermaine down there at Key Mountain. This is his big sister, Nellie, calling from Washington, D.C. Just want to tell you that I love you, sweetie. I miss you. And there's not a day that goes by that I do not think about you and pray for you. And I would just like to give a shout out to the radio station. That is just such a blessing that you guys allow us, families who haven't seen their incarcerated people in such a long time, to bless them with a shout out every Monday. I thank you. So I'm showing you all love too. Love you guys. Love you, Jermaine. All the prisoners who are doing 15 and plus years for things that they shouldn't be in there for. Let you know that you still have a sister over here on this end. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
I want to give a shout out to my pops, Yaya, and we doing good out here. I'm still on your letter. I've been busy getting my grades up and stuff, but we doing good. Keep your head up. We love you.
This is me once again. I requested your little song, as you said. I love you, and William. Hi. How you doing? How you doing? Are you ABC? This is Malia Simpson going out for my dad's Scottish Simpson. I want you to know that I love and miss you very much, and that Mama is going to let me keep the puppy. It's dark gray with black spots. It's really fat, and I named her Maggie. I'm really happy, too. She's going to let me keep it inside of a buddy. Yay.
So shout out to Chandra. How you doing, Sean? It's Grandma. Just sitting on the porch, relaxing with Aunt Deborah, Mama, and Gemma. We had a little cookout today. We didn't plan it, but we all got together and had one. Hopefully soon you'll be here with us to have one with us. Love you. Talk to you next Monday.
So that's just a little glimpse of what the radio show sounds like every Monday night. And often we would hear calls that ended just like that. Love you, talk to you next Monday. And what, as DJs, we knew that meant was that this radio show, they wouldn't talk again until the next radio show. And this show was really a response to the reality that phone calls to prisoners are exorbitantly expensive. At that time, they could be up to $1 a minute for a family. Trips to visit are extremely expensive, and the amount of time you're able to visit is very limited. And so this radio show sort of we found ourselves in the middle of this, and that we could provide a toll-free number for families to call. And in hosting that show, though, for many years, I got to know some of the people that called every week, and I learned so much about all of the challenges that people faced in terms of even being able to get to these prisons. You know, they're in the prison I showed you is in far southwest Virginia. You know, there's no bus station, there's no train station, there's no airport within 2 hours of the prison. So if you don't own a car or can afford to rent one, there's actually no way for you to get there. And the majority of people are from very far away in central Richmond, Virginia, Eastern Shore. So even for these state facilities, it was still a huge trip for most people. So the DJs and I decided to organize a series of van trips for families to come and visit. And so this is when I reached out to Raymond, and I wanted to share with you tonight a photo audio documentary we did, sort of documenting a trip of families coming to these two Supermax prisons in far southwest Virginia. Trying to make it possible for them to get there. And so we reached out to everyone we knew through the radio show, and we met up in Richmond and drove overnight. These are Raymond's beautiful photographs that you'll see in the atrium. We left Richmond at midnight and arrived in Wise County at 8 a.m. And slowly made our way up the mountain to Red Onion, which is on a strip mine far back in the hills. You can't see it. And for many of the people in this trip, this was their first time to the region, so this just felt like a very foreign landscape. And here we are, arriving at Wallens Ridge State Prison. And several of the women on the trip hadn't seen their sons in many, many years. And I wanted to play you, after visitation that day, we had a community dinner and shared stories of what it was like to be there and see their loved one. So this photo is Louise Good, who is from Hampton, Virginia, and behind her is Leslie Gardner, who traveled all the way from Washington, D.C. And here's a little clip of, this is Leslie Gardner, who saw her son Michael.
My name is Leslie Gardner. I'm from Washington, D.C. I traveled over 400 miles to Red Onion State Prison to visit my son, Michael Gardner. He's been there for like 21 years. I've only seen him maybe twice. I haven't seen him, it's been like 15 years. Yeah. And I've seen him come through the door. I still know him, I know my baby. And he still looked the same, just gained some weight. He looks, I say, you are so handsome, boy. He just looks so good. And I was just so happy. I've been happy all week. Because I knew I was going to see him. We shared some tears. You know, he said, I want to come home. I said, I need you home too.
So Leslie traveled all the way from Washington, D.C., and it was a 15-hour trip one way for her to get there. And this was actually the second van trip she came on with us, because the first trip she came on, she traveled all the way to the prison, and then they wouldn't let her in because it actually turned out to be an error in their computer system where it said that because she had a former conviction that she wouldn't be allowed to visit. And there is a law where if you have a felony within 10 years, you can't go visit someone in prison. And her conviction was actually prior to 10 years, but it showed up in their system and they just wouldn't let her in. So she had to travel all the way back to DC without seeing her son and then come back again. This is Louise Good, who came to see her son. Keep using the mouse.
My name is Louise Good. I'm from Hampton, Virginia. I traveled 430 miles to get here to see my son. To be able to physically touch him, it's been over 10 years. And today it was wonderful to touch him. He smiled, just hugged me, you know. And before I got there, I shed a few tears because I hadn't seen him in a while. It felt good, you know, to touch my son and look at him with no petition between us. It felt real good, real good. It's nothing like touching a child, you know, that touch.
And this is one more woman who was with us. This is Bonnie Turner.
When he came in the room, his face, he just put his hand over his eyes, and we were so excited. So I didn't want to cry, and I didn't want him to cry. It was just so exciting to see his face, you know, because he's been locked up for a long time. He was 23 when he first got locked up, so he's 41 now. I think it's been like 18, maybe 19 years. Being in the visitation room, I just want to sit there and hold his hands, but you know, once they come in, we can all hug them once they come in, and we can all hug them when they leave. But being a mother, I just want to sit there and hold his hand, but they have petition that we can't touch him, no leg touching anything. So it's kind of hard, but it's okay because they can't stop me from watching him. So I watched him, and he watched me and the rest of the family that was there. So it never gets easy. It's always harder, but we just try to we just try to make it so that we can still love and enjoy him when we see him, because we never know when we're going to see him again.
The average number of visits that a prisoner gets in the United States is 2 total, regardless of the length of their incarceration. And I mean, that's a stunning statistic. And I think it really wasn't until doing this project that I realized how many obstacles there are to visitation, that it's not because of a lack of families' desire to visit, but after you go and are turned away and have spent all that money, or travel so far and get a 45-minute visit behind glass, it really begins to wear on people. And this is Bonnie's family, and this is her son, Jay. And this is another woman, Irvonne, who came on the trip with us. And I was talking to Irvonne about what it meant to visit, what it meant for her, what it took for her to go, and she was reflecting with me after we made it all the way back to Richmond in about 30 hours there and back. So this is Irvonne.
This trip, it was great, and I enjoy myself. But at the same time, it makes you like not want to come back, because every time you come, they treat you kind of, you know, like you're not human. And then you will call and they'll tell you one thing, and you get there, it's a whole different story. And I want to continue to, you know, be supportive of him, but at the same time, he really don't want me to keep coming and going through all of that. The past 2 times that we went, the Friday before we left, I called to make sure that he was able to have a contact visit. And each time I called, they said, yes, everything's fine. The visiting hours are still the same. So once we got there, I get there, get searched like everybody else, go through that miserable process, and then they'll sit me at a table like we're gonna get a contact visit. And once I get in there for a while, then they'll come over and tell me that he can't have a contact visit. The first time I went, they told me that something happened on his tier. He wasn't involved in it, but being that he's on that tier, he still has to be on lockdown. Even though they took the people who caused the issues off the tier and put them in segregation, they still punished the whole tier. And this time, they really didn't say anything. They just shoved it off like, this is what it is and this is what you're gonna do. And I just was like, okay, and just went to the window. You can't hug, you can't kiss. That one embrace that they do let you have, you can't do it. You can't take a picture. So you drove all this way. Just all you can really do is get on the phone and talk through the window.
I just, when Yvonne told me that predicament, that she wants to keep going to support him, but he's telling her not to come because he just knows what enormous disappointment she might be met with when she gets there. I was just so struck by. And I started to think about how even when you're in the visitation room, when you make it there, it's still, you know, a very censored environment, and families can't, you can only bring 4 visitors back at a time, so people can't go with their whole family, or, you know, I went with one family who showed up with 5 people and 2 small, 3 adults and 2 small children, and they wouldn't let all 5 go back at the same time, so they had to take turns. And so I started to think about how it would be possible to create a sort of sense of being with family that isn't really possible in a prison visitation room. And so that's when I started the Restorative Radio Project, which was building from calls from home. I reached out to people who had been calling the radio show for years and years and years, and ended up collaborating with families to make little short audio documentaries from home that were then broadcast to reach the men inside. And the idea of these pieces was to create sort of an immersive soundscape of being with your family, of being in your home community, of moving through spaces in a way that you can't in prison, and to share a sense of families being together sort of in their own space on their own terms. And so I ended up working with Essie, who's in the background there, who was on the trip visiting her grandson, Devon. And so Essie and I made a postcard for Devon. So I'm just gonna play you the first couple minutes of Essie's piece for him.
Hi, Devon. This is your grandma. You know what you call me. This is G-Ma, Grandma Essie. Today's date is Sunday, October 11th, and I'm so blessed that we are on our way to church today, and your mother should be there. And after church, all of us will talk to you. And this is to show you today how much we love you, and we're sending a shout out to you, making a radio piece specifically for you. You know, every Sunday when I go to church, I generally carry you in my Bible. Well, I left you in North Carolina this week, that picture that I usually have with me. But I got you in my heart 24/7. And remember what I told you, regardless of what everybody else do, you keep on keeping a prayer in your heart and spread that to your brothers, because the more prayer y'all do, the heavier y'all can fight whatever demons may be trying to dance on you. Tag, are you ready? All right, we're heading out and we'll be at church at 10 o'clock. Going down Staunton Avenue. Most of the neighborhood up and down 10th Street is just about gone. And on our usual plea, we're late. we're a few minutes. The clock is a little bit fast, but we're still late. It's supposed to start at 10, so we're going to make it real well.
I'm Stella Thomas, your grandma's buddy and bud. But I wish you'd have a blessed day because I got a brother-in-law been dead 40 years now. I just hope he come free one day. He ain't never nothing though, you know that. When you don't have money, that's where you go to take advantage of you. You got money, you know, you pay your way, but when you ain't got no money, yeah, we thinking about you this morning. We're gonna sing for you.
After that, we went back to Essie's house, and Devon's uncle was cooking a huge fried fish Sunday dinner, and we recorded sounds of cooking and sitting around the kitchen table where everybody told stories about Devon as a child and their memories of him and their hopes for him and his future. And Devon heard that from inside his prison cell at Red Onion State Prison. And he said, he wrote to his grandmother, he said, when I heard that radio piece, I felt like I was right there in the room with my whole family. I felt like I was a human being that night. I made one more piece with Michelle Hudson, who her husband William is serving a life sentence under Virginia's 3 strikes laws. And Michelle spent 3 months recording audio to send out to her husband William. So here actually is just the last 2 minutes of her piece for William.
Well, hey, sweetheart. I'm on my way down to your mother's birthday party, and I'm sure you've been wondering why I've been taking forever to get this recording in. And this is part of the reason. I really wanted to share another experience with you, and I know it's been a very long time since you've participated in a family party. So once I found out about your mother's birthday, I kind of wanted to hold off and just bring you along for the excitement and the celebration. So I'm gonna make sure that you hear some voices that you haven't heard in a while. Keep listening out.
Nephew Mark, man, I love you. We out here celebrating on my birthday. I love you, man. Hey, boo. This is stepdad. We'll be glad to see you soon. Hey, boo. Peace, bro.
Hey guys, your son. Sorry it's been a minute. I'm 26, so I'm about to get married soon. I want she can come to say hi. I'm sorry, I don't know what to say. Miss you, Dad. I know it's been some years. I've been busy, very busy. I can put my phone number, you can call me.
Hi, I'm Lanisha. I'm Edward's fiance. I want to know so much about you, especially now I'm with your son.
When William heard that piece, that was the first time he'd heard his son's voice in over 20 years. He'd lost touch with his son when Edward was 6 years old. And after that radio piece, his son, Edward, decided that he wanted to get to know William again and actually registered to be on William's visitation list and went down to visit his father for the first time as an adult. And I just wanted to end with this map, which is New York State, which is where I live now, and I'm currently working on this radio project there.